This is Money Motivation and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright. In charge of all the controls is Jason Wright. And hello to you, world. This is the show that can and will change your life. You can contact us at info@mx3.vip and find all of our new content at mx3.vip or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mx3podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified of all of our new content, which Jason puts out every Monday morning around 9 o'clock. And hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving. And as we move forward, as we move closer to the year of 2025 and a new presidential administration taking over shortly thereafter in January. First of all, Jason, are you very aware of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, better known as MIT?
I have heard of it, yes.
Yeah. Probably know about as much as I do, which is not very much because I knew I could never get into that place. So I never even considered it. MIT is right up there with, or maybe even bigger, who knows? Depends on how you look at it, with the Ivy League schools. And I never really cared for Ivy, so I never looked at the Ivy League schools. Massachusetts Institute of Technology to waive tuition for families making less than $200,000. $200,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you make $199,000 a year, you can get free tuition to MIT. This is an article put out by Leah Saranoff just this last week. So, one of the most prestigious universities in America has made a landmark decision to offer the majority of its incoming undergraduate students a tuition-free education. I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you how big of endowments they have with monies that they're making off of their investments. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology announced Wednesday that students with family income below $200,000 can expect to attend the Cambridge Institution tuition-free starting next fall. The bulk of American households meet this income threshold. And according to the university, which says the new policy will cover 80% of its incoming classes. Additionally, students whose family income is below $100,000 will see their entire MIT experience paid for, not just including tuition, housing, dining, books, fees, and even an allowance, Jason, for personal expenses if you make less than $100,000 a year. $100,000 a year in a family household, once again, a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically can get paid to go to MIT if your income's less than $100,000, your family household income. How about that? MIT's distinctive model of education, free education, intense, demanding. Of course, they're rooted in science and engineering, and I didn't care for science. This all comes from the president, Sally Kornbluth. She said this in her press release that is obviously being covered right here. The cost of college, and we've had some episodes on college and where we stand on college, and maybe the general public not thinking of the higher education quite like it once was thought of. For example, when I'm growing up, you basically were going to be in poverty if you didn't get a college education. Or that's the way we felt, and that was what was embedded into us in the 1980s. And of course, the college is a real concern for families across the board, and obviously MIT making the opportunity for tuition free and even all of your expenses for free, if it comes to that, is making this much easier and easier. MIT tuition, Jason, in the school year 22-23, $57,986, which is much higher than the $39,400 average for four-year private institutions in the nation. That's per school year.
Wow.
It's $18,000 more than your normal private school in the United States of America. So I'm sure an MIT degree coming out of school will get you a lot of goodies when it comes to the employment world. I'm sure that an MIT on that resume looks fantastic. So moving right along to basically our today's subject, which also my information that I received from CNN. And this is several ways a Trump administration could affect your finances. And some of these things have to do with taxes, a couple of the topics that I cover. But President-elect Trump promised Americans he'd bring down consumer pricing, make health care more affordable, and protect Social Security. Now he has to follow up of those things. Social Security, I'm anxious to see what he does there, because Social Security is in desperate need. We are running out of money to meet the annual obligations at the Social Security Administration level. And as we've talked about on this show, 2035 is the upcoming date where we'll have a 30% shortage. Now, I don't know why the federal government, and I've said this before, I don't know why the federal government wouldn't bail out Social Security, because they bail out everybody else. And there's more people being affected by Social Security than there is probably the automobile industry or the air industry, especially flying. So much of the president's ability to impact economic policy depends on the approval of Congress. You got to have them. But nonetheless, Trump will go in January the 20th, and he's looking to make good on his promises. And here are some of the ways. Child care, number one. And Trump on the campaign trail suggested expanding the child tax credit. You familiar with the child tax credit?
I am.
Getting so much credit for each child you have under 17 years. During Trump's first term in the 2017 Tax Cut Act, temporarily expanded the child tax credit from $1,000 per child to $2,000 per child. And of course, that credit is going to expire in 2025. That's when that will come to an end. But approval from Congress obviously will continue that. Now, Vice President-elect Vance has suggested expanding child tax credit to $5,000. Trump has not made comment on that particular proposal that Vance has talked about. And the thing about credits are better than deductions, because credits are real money. You owe $2,000, you get a child tax credit of $2,000, you now owe nothing. You owe $2,000 and you have a $2,000 deduction, and you're in the 15% tax bracket, that only lowers your tax $300. Now you owe $1,700. So credits are good. And $5,000 with child tax credits would be monumental. And frankly, I don't know how they would ever come about getting that passed and funding it. But according to CNN exit polls, 68% of the voters said the economy was either poor or not good. And that was one of their main reasons for voting the way they did. And to Harris's defense, whether she said it or not, she was lumped in with Biden. And Biden didn't do a very good job with the economy, in my opinion. Now, taxes. The Trump administration is expected to focus on extending tax cuts, such as the child tax credit, a Jobs Act that, as we talked about, going to expire in 2025. I believe it will be extended. But his 2017 tax cuts would lower taxes by an average of $2,000 in 2026. Now, this is according to the Tax Policy Center of Urban Bookings. Now, however, nearly half the tax break benefits would go to the top 5 households who make over $450,000. Extending the tax cuts would save the top 1% of households about $70,000 or 3.2% of their income, according to the Tax Policy Center. By comparison, the tax cuts would save middle-class families about $1,000 or 1.3% of their income. Obviously, it's going to save them less. They have less tax. Where a family making $50,000, and we just talked about a family making less than $100, going to get a pretty well a free education to MIT. But a family making $50,000 has so many deductions, such as the married filing jointly standard deduction, and then maybe some child tax credit deductions, where their tax burden ends up being zero. So when you hear, well, there you go, the upper echelon getting 3.2% of their income being less taxed, and the middle class only 1.3, that's also because the deductions take some of the middle class down to zero taxable income. So be aware of that whenever you're looking at these numbers and trying to decide who's getting shafted. Trump promised not to cut one penny from Social Security. He has proposed eliminating federal taxes on Social Security, tips, and overtime pay. Now remember, Social Security only becomes taxable if you have other earned income. And then it's on a ladder of the more money you make, the more of your Social Security becomes taxable. But there are a lot of senior citizen families, couples, who all they have is their Social Security. So eliminating federal taxes on Social Security is not as big of a tax relief as it sounds, because so many people don't even have to file a tax return because all they have is Social Security. So households making $32,000 or less would not benefit from the federal tax cut because the majority of their Social Security income, as I said, is not taxed. And that's according to the Tax Policy Center. Under Trump's proposal, the fund reserves for Social Security, now this particular article says, would run out in 2031. The last time we did the research, probably a year ago, it was 2035. So that's 4 years less than what we have already proposed. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Additionally, there will be a 33% decrease in benefits for enrollees in 2035. So there's going to be a shortage in 2031, and like I have said, a 30% reduction by 2035, and this now says 33%, according to CNN. We're right on here, Jason. We're way ahead of this deal.
Oh, yeah. Student
loan debt, another topic. Key aspects of the Biden administration's plan for student loan debt forgiveness, hang in the balance, meaning that the Trump administration could influence the outcome of millions of Americans who hope to have their debt canceled. Now, I'm totally against that. You go to school, you get a higher education, and now it's going to get wiped out. Okay, it's getting wiped out by MIT, but MIT has made the monies to pay for your tuition. It's not costing John Q. taxpayer any money. But when you go in and wipe out student debt, the federal government has given this money for your education to the institution. And now you get it free? Well, how about the people who did not even decide to go to college because they couldn't afford it?
Mm-hmm.
And if they had made that decision 4 years, 8 years, 10 years ago, I have clientele that are in their 40s still paying off tuition because they have some higher education, master's degree, doctorate degree, whatever it is. And here we go, these people who didn't go to college because they couldn't afford it, and now the people who did go to college get it wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
I work several jobs to pay for my tuition. And I also believe if you earn something, you're going to appreciate it more. So, efforts to forgive student loan debt as attempted by the Biden administration will likely be scrapped under Trump. That's what I also think too. What's your thoughts on the tuition being wiped out, Jason?
What about the people who have already majority paid theirs off or something like that.
You're looking at me.
Yeah.
Now, I paid mine off a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
But maybe if I'd have known 30 years later that I was going to get my debt wiped out, I went ahead and tried to get a master's
absolutely.
and a doctorate and law degree and geez.
Yeah, it changes your decision is going to be weighted heavily if you know that you're going to get it for free
Absolutely.
at some point. Yeah.
I mean, if they come out with a law that on January the 20th, 2025, inauguration date, first thing that the Trump administration is going to do is wipe out all automobile vehicle debt.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be about buying the largest, most expensive vehicle you could buy today.
Absolutely.
Prices and inflation, another topic. Concerns about inflation helped send Trump back to the White House. Inflation ticked up to 2.6% in October. Its first increase in 6 months, according to the Consumer Price Index. The bump up was in line with expectations, but it was also a signal that the beast of inflation is not entirely tamed. Trump's proposed 10 to 20% tariffs on imports would lead to an increase in everyday consumer prices, according to the report of the National Retail Federation. For example, $90 athletic shoes would cost $106 to $116 under the Trump tariffs. Now, the offset to that is make the shoes in America. They're shipping it over there. They're doing it over there at cheap labor, cheap cost, and then bringing it over here and selling it for $90 when we probably should be making those shoes right here in the old USA, made in America type deal, which, as you remember, was a big staple at Walmart at once upon a time. Made in the USA. I don't think they have those flying around anymore, do they?
I don't recall them. I don't make it to Walmart too often, though.
So, Trump's proposal of mass deportation could increase food prices. Be aware of that. It's got to stop somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are, the import king of the world? We let everything in.
Yeah.
So, healthcare. This is greatness. And speaking straight from the pocketbook, I can tell you that Obamacare has worked for those who didn't have health insurance. Obamacare has not worked for those who paid for insurance before Obamacare. My insurance is 4 times what it was before Obamacare.
Yeah.
Because you're paying for them. I mean, it's being subsidized, Jason.
Yeah.
Who's it being subsidized from? Tax-paying citizens. On the campaign trail, Trump went back and forth on his approach to changing the Affordable Care Act. And he has said he has concepts of a plan for health care. And I'd like to see him get involved in that right now. Americans enrolled in the ACA marketplace will likely see increases in health care costs after a key tax credit from the pandemic expires at the end of 2025. I didn't even know that we had a pandemic credit from 2025. Where'd they slip that in?
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that.
I haven't either. And I mean, we stay up on this stuff pretty good. Shoot. Okay. As part of the 2021 American Rescue Plan Act, enhanced tax premium credits were introduced to decrease out-of-pocket costs for eligible ACA enrollees. These tax credits were expanded through 2025 as part of the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. Didn't know that either. A Republican-led Congress, which we now have as of January the 20th, correct?
We will have, yes.
We will have. A Republican-led Congress elect. How about that?
There you go.
A Republican-led Congress is likely to let the enhanced personal tax credits expire, according to KFF, a nonprofit health policy group. The credits save employees about $700 a year, according to KFF, and if they expire, about 19.7 million Americans will see spikes in health care expenses. Healthcare is a major deal. And I don't think it's getting better. I think it's getting worse. But maybe it's getting worse for the people who have actually paid for it out of their own pocket for a long period of time, such as us self-employed people. Now, you got to pay what you got to pay. And I have definitely benefited from carrying my health insurance all these years. There's years you never even use it. But when you have a big occurrence come up, it's there for you. And you're very fortunate to have it. And I know a lot of people don't have health care, but we've got to find a better way than the Affordable Cares Act, which, as what I think is funny, is when that stuff come out, it was called Obamacare. Mm-hmm. As the plan has taken negative hits, it turns into the Affordable Cares Act, no longer Obamacare. And housing. More homeless people than ever before? Or are they just now out in the public where you can actually see them? Housing. Trump's policy platform says his administration will promote house ownership through tax incentives and support for first-time homebuyers. It also mentions opening limited portions of land owned by the federal government for new home construction. Now, Trump has not elaborated on that particular platform, but it is out there. And I don't know if you remember, back in the 2007-2008 year, you could get tax credits on first-time home buyers. They actually gave out $7,500. You bought a house for the first time ever in 2007. They would give out $7,500 worth of tax credits. This is under the Bush #2 administration. And then you could pay that back at $500 a year over the next 15 years. 2008, they came out with that same number, and you did not have to pay it back. That really got people excited who bought the house in 2007 instead of 2008. But you $7,500 credit, once again, credit, not a deduction, just like the child tax credit. You bought a house first time, $7,500. Pay it back by $500 a year in 2007 and no payback in 2008. So, as for mortgages, more affordable rates could stem from the Federal Reserve's decision on where to set interest rates. The Fed's benchmark interest rate sets the cost of borrowing between banks and influences the interest rates paid by consumers on loans, credit cards, and mortgage. So for those who don't know how it works, you need to pay attention to the Federal Reserve, and you need to pay attention to the prime. Trump's plan of mass deportation could shrink the labor force in the construction sector, putting strain on already tight supply of housing and in turn causing higher prices. Now, obviously that is, what we say, illegals living in the United States of America. Now, here's the deal with the illegals. No Social Security card, fake Social Security card, no pay taxes. No taxes go to the federal government. So if you need more money at the federal government level and everyone paid their tax, you wouldn't need more money at the federal government level. Now, I also know that the Congress, the Congress and the House have to be very tight on their spending, and we have never been tight on our spending, which brings up another topic that we'll talk about on a later date, which is Elon Musk, who talks about pretty well about how cutting and how he did his cut down at X.
Yeah,
and believes he's going to be on the cabinet, correct?
He's going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency with Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, I want to say that Elon's only going to be there for about 18 months, but I think he can knock out quite a bit in 18 months.
1 month would be good having him in the room.
Yeah. Well, when he cut Twitter force by 80%, and it's still running smooth as ever.
No issues.
Yeah.
So, just having some influence of that guy for a little time, like him or not.
Yeah.
He appears to know what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy is taking space rockets to space.
Pretty smart guy.
Appears to be. Pretty shrewd. should fit right into the Trump camp just fine.
No problem.
So there's a few topics, a few items that come along with what's going to be coming down the pipe with our soon-to-be Trump administration that could affect your finances. Maybe positive, maybe negative, depending on where you are and your stature in life. But we'll continue to look at that and see how that works. And probably we do. We need to have a show on Elon Musk. I've studied him. I've listened to his book on tape. I'm interested in getting into who he is and what he's done. So I expect for that to be a topic for you viewers and listeners that we'll discuss in January, February, come time. Maybe you could work on getting him here on the show, Jason.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd put us over 100,000 viewers and listeners with no problem.
By itself, no problem.
Money, Motivation, and Mike continues to bring you topics that we feel are important not only to you, but the world in general, especially in the United States of America, as the most powerful person in the world. A new president-elect comes into play on January the 20th. Once again, contact us, info@mx3.vip. You've never really been hesitant to show your opinions, or you can contact us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@mx3podcast. And don't forget to like, subscribe to get all of our information, which comes out every Monday morning around 9 o'clock. mx3.vip, Jason, you've got on your hat today. And we need to figure out how to do some kind of giveaways for our viewing and listening audience. That's got to be a 2025 topic. You hit 100,000, we got to figure out how to take care of these people.
We can do it.
Who, if you don't know, we are approaching the middle of year 3. And we've had another episode, a different episode every week for going on 2.5 years. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, listeners. And for everyone who's been a part of this show, continue to live your life the right way.